In 1978, five friends drove into the California mountains after a basketball game, but they never came home. Months later, police found their car abandoned on a dangerous mountain road. Then the bodies started appearing, and nothing about the case made sense. February 24th, 1978. Five friends leave a college basketball game in California and begin a drive home that should have taken less than an hour. But they never make it back. Days later, their car is discovered abandoned deep in the mountains, on a road they had absolutely no reason to be on. Then the bodies begin to appear, and what investigators found inside a remote forest trailer only made the mystery even more disturbing. This is the terrifying mystery of the Yuba County Five disappearance. The five men were friends from Yuba City, California. Their names were Jack Madruga, Bill Sterling, Ted Wyhair, Gary Mathias, and Jackie Hoot. Most of them had mild intellectual disabilities, but they lived relatively normal lives and were extremely close. Basketball was a huge part of their lives. In fact, the night they disappeared, they had just attended a basketball game at California State University in Chico. They were excited because the next morning they were scheduled to play in their own tournament. Friends and family later said the men were looking forward to it so much they would never have intentionally disappeared. After the game ended, the group stopped at a convenience store for snacks and drinks. Witnesses saw them around 10 p.m. Then they vanished. 4 days later, a forest ranger discovered Jack Madruga's car abandoned on an isolated mountain road near the Plumas National Forest. But investigators immediately noticed something strange. The car wasn't damaged, it wasn't stuck, and it still had enough gas to drive back down the mountain. The men had simply abandoned it and walked away into freezing wilderness conditions. Nobody understood why, especially because this road was completely opposite of the route they should have taken home. Search teams began combing through the mountains for weeks. Snowstorms and harsh conditions made the search extremely difficult. Then, months later, investigators made a horrifying discovery. Deep in the forest, they found a small trailer used by Forest Service workers. Inside was the body of Ted Wyhair. But the disturbing part wasn't just where he was found. It was how he died. Around him were enough food supplies to keep someone alive for months. There were matches, blankets, a working propane tank, but somehow most of the supplies had barely been touched. Investigators believed Ted survived inside the trailer for weeks before eventually dying from starvation and exposure. His beard had grown heavily, and he had lost massive amounts of weight, which meant someone had likely been helping him survive for a period of time. But who? Nearby, searchers eventually found the remains of Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling. Jackie Hoot's bones were later discovered in the wilderness, but one man was never found. Gary Mathias disappeared completely, and that's where the theories began. Some investigators believed Gary may have tried to lead the group through the mountains after they became lost. Others suspected the men encountered someone dangerous on the road that night. There were even reports from witnesses claiming they saw mysterious lights and strange figures in the mountains during the time the men vanished. But nothing was ever proven. More than 4 decades later, the mystery remains unsolved. Why did the men abandon a perfectly working car? Why did they travel deeper into deadly wilderness instead of returning to safety? And if Ted Weiher survived in the trailer for weeks, who was with him? To this day, the Yuba County Five disappearance is still considered one of America's strangest and most haunting cold cases. And somewhere in the mountains of California, the full story may still be waiting to be discovered. For more interesting and captivating true crime stories like this, don't forget to click on the subscription button